What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the CrabNet Show. On today's show, we are talking about the champions, Liverpool. They've got off to an awesome start in the Premier League, and they've made some great signings over the last week or so. We're going to get the thoughts of the resident analysts on Liverpool's season ahead and the statement they've made with these signings. That's our first segment for the day. Our second, we're talking about goalkeepers. We're breaking down the role of a goalkeeper in the modern era, especially with so much of emphasis on the likes of Kepa and David De Gea. What does a great goalkeeper need to have to succeed in the Premier League and in European football in the modern era? That's our second segment for the day. And our last one, to close it out, we're looking at another trip down memory lane here on the streets of South Africa, looking back at some of the most deadliest partnerships on the field after a brilliant partnership between Son and Kane this weekend that saw 4 goals go back and forth between them. So we'll take a trip down memory lane and look at the deadly duos that's succeeded in the Premier League era. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the CrabNet. We're going strong. We bring fresh opinions from the streets of South Africa, as we always do. I'm your host, Raj, and we've got 2 of our resident analysts on the show today, along with one of our famous guests. But introducing our homeboy Shay first up. What's happening, Shay? Welcome back.
What's up, everyone? Happy to be here.
Sure, Shay. Always love having you. Homie Gurr is back with us. What's up, Fergie?
Gents, back around. Good to be back.
Shot. Ganakai is missing this week, but one of our favorite guests, our main man, Cass, is with us again. What's up, Cass? Welcome back to the net.
What's up, Raj? Thanks for having me. Always happy to be here.
Shot. We love having you, and especially when we're talking about our boys, Liverpool. It's been a great start on the season for the LFC team. Both Cass and I smiling at the first 2 games, and it's been an exciting week, and that's where we're starting. We recording on Tuesday, the 22nd of September. Just a few days after game week 2 in the Premier League was completed. As I said, Liverpool managed to get a second consecutive win to start out the season. But the big news was around the signings that they made over the course of Friday and Saturday going into the game week. And Cass, to start you off first up, exciting first 2 signings to start off the weekend for us. I'm sure Thiago had you smiling there, Cass.
Yeah, he did. But I think Jota was the one that got me even more happier eventually to make it a sort of complete window, I feel. But Thiago coming in was obviously, he was the big signing, the big name, the one who the creativity that we needed in midfield. But like I was chatting to Griv, I said, like, I felt Liverpool's midfield with that hard-working 3 that they usually have, it kind of gives balance and allows the others to play. And I don't know how Thiago will fit into that. But watching them against Chelsea and watching how he controlled the game, I think maybe it's a sign that Liverpool are also kind of evolving, becoming more dominant, will have the ball more now. And maybe they do need that kind of player. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. But I think Jota is definitely the one for me that completed the window, because we needed some backup for those ones, so quality backup.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw Jota being quality in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons with Wolves. But Thiago was the one that I think all of us were looking out for. Girl, you've seen that Thiago performance over the course of the Bayern Munich Champions League winning season. What dimension do you think Thiago is going to bring to a Liverpool team who's already shown that they are brilliant going forward, they're solid at the back? Where do you think Thiago fits into a Jurgen Klopp team that's already on the top of their game?
Yeah, man, the last piece of the puzzle. When I heard of this move, I was like, yeah, that is because when you speak about Liverpool, we're speaking about the front or the back.
Mm-hmm.
And that big gap, that black hole, that's you don't remember any creativity. You don't remember any stealing of the ball that you want to talk about. You know, it's always happening in the back or in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was all you needed. And then I heard Jota's coming through, and I was like, yeah, there we go. That is the fresh legs up front. I think he was actually playing a bit out of place in Wolves because of Jimenez taking that number 9 role. I actually see Firmino, Jota, and Jota being the super sub, at least for this season going forward, especially in that role.
For sure. And I think one of the other big statements with these two signings was we haven't really seen Liverpool see a need to lose some of their key players. And Shay, I want to get your thoughts on this. Bringing in two people of the caliber of Thiago and Jota, but still retaining the rest of the squad, says a lot about what Klopp and Liverpool are trying to build in terms of creating a depth in the squad that can compete on all fronts. Is that something that the rest of the English Premiership needs to take note of, and Europe with the squad that Jurgen is building? Jay?
I think it's something that Klopp's taken note of that's happened with the great teams in the past. Because you can see this Liverpool team has really gelled together and they're loving their football and they really understand each other on the pitch right now. And we've seen great teams in the past stay together, like Arsenal and the Invincibles and United under Ferguson, and some great Barcelona and Madrid teams that have stuck together, and that core squad plays together for a good 4 or 5 years, and they nail out the trophies. They knock out title after title. And I think that's what Klopp is doing right now. He did a very good move by not letting any of his big names go, when teams like Barcelona are probably offering crazy money right now for some of their players in dire need of making big signings. But Klopp's done a very wise thing of keeping the squad together, especially his core players, like you mentioned, the likes of Salah, Mane, Firmino, and his backline. And then with this introduction of now Jota and Thiago, it really adds depth to the squad, because you have other fringe players like Wijnaldum, Keita, and Origi who have really grown in confidence and become better players because they're playing against world-class players right now. And then you've still got the likes of Ox and Shaqiri, who we haven't seen much of, and also other recent signing, Minamino. You can expect big things.
He's done well in pre-season as well.
Exactly. He's a great player. He can buzz. And one thing Liverpool didn't have last season was injuries. So if you do expect to see that core being dismantled somehow, you'd want a seamless transition where one of the guys can step in and they can keep with their momentum. You don't want them to just collapse because the key man is missing. So I think Klopp's done a good job of keeping the squad together in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. And we spoke about the condensed season that is expected with the COVID. And Cass, just to get your thoughts here, we're looking at the first 2 games of the season. We didn't see much rotation there. But obviously, Jurgen is thinking about rotating that squad, but still having the same quality in the team. We know he needs that workman-like midfield. But is there maybe a gap in the squad, and that being in defense? We saw Fabinho come in and play centre back over the weekend in the victory over Chelsea. But is that potentially a place where Liverpool can be found wanted? Yes?
Possibly. I mean, the fact that Fabinho had to step in there, even though he did quite a good job. I think he was voted man of the match.
Yeah, he had Timo Werner in his pocket.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a bit worrying that he had to go in. Because if you think about it, then we only have 3 senior centre backs with Van Dijk, Gomez, and Matip. I'm not too sure. Yeah, maybe they will need to get someone in there to kind of fill that void, or maybe worst case it would be Fabinho, and maybe that's why in fact Thiago had come in, because should the need be that Fabinho has to be used as centre back, then you got Thiago in the holding role, and that also can give another option. So maybe that was the thinking as well, that you bring Thiago in, although it seems like a overloaded midfield, these guys that can play in different positions within there. So maybe that was the thinking. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. And I guess there's also some questions around the youngsters coming to the squad, and good to get your thoughts here. Klopp obviously wants to bring in some of these youngsters who have performed well in last year's season. People like Curtis Jones, people like Neco Williams, who's back up to Trent right now. But the likes of Brewster, as an example, might not be able to break into this team. Is that potentially something that Liverpool's going to lose going forward, losing those youngsters because they want to maintain a core of established players?
Probably. You see, the thing is, they're being spotted now, and transfer markets are so active that it's more lucrative to a player to get his 90 minutes. And I love to always hear when a player says, you know what, I went here, like Martinez, he took a salary dock, if you'd like to call it that, or a lesser of a contract to actually leave, but to get 90 minutes. And that's what it means to him, his game time.
And he got that immediately at Aston Villa.
You have a fine line to balance, and that's why these cup games come along, and these other games that you can give them some games. And when one injury and one man out of form, and then your third player for that position will come through like a boost of playing in the front line of Liverpool. But it's up to the if they got a long way to go and they know they need some development, because it's always good to give them opportunities, windows of opportunities while they're so young, so that they don't blow off all their steam while they're still in their mid-20s when it's supposed to be their prime.
Yeah, for sure. And there's not a lot of them. We've mentioned a few of the names, maybe the likes of RB Elliott also there. But the core of the Liverpool team is in their prime years. And Shea, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Because these two signings that we speak of, Jota and Thiago, they are just complementing a Liverpool team that is in excellent form, and it's not just form, but they're consistent. And we spoke heavily about them at the back end of last season when they brought home the victory. But the core of that team, the spine of that team, from Alisson to Van Dijk to Endo, all of those players are assured. And we saw that in the first two games of the season. They conceded 3 against Leeds. They pulled out a clean sheet and a victory over Chelsea. Can you see this Liverpool team being stopped this year with the maturity that they have in that squad?
It's a very difficult question the way you phrased it. Obviously, me being a United supporter, I'm going to have to answer yes. I have to answer yes. They can be stopped.
Now that the heart has spoken, and now the football brain needs to talk.
The heart has spoken, but now the fair analysis has to come through. Like I said, they've added extreme depth into the squad. And if you look at Jota versus Firmino, it's a seamless transition. He can play as an attacking player, or even he can step into that role that Wijnaldum has been filling, or Origi. And the same story with Thiago coming in for Fabinho, if that needs to be the case. I feel like Klopp has kind of employed a tactic from what we saw this weekend with Fabinho playing as an extra defender. The same thing that we saw Pep do at Barcelona many seasons ago when he started playing Mascherano for a full season at the back. When you've got your players passing the ball around so slickly, so confidently, where they're playing that confident possession ball, you can afford to play an extra midfielder, even in defense, just so you know you have that comfort of a composed player on the ball. And we know that the Liverpool defense is composed. Apart from Van Dijk's mistake this weekend, it's good that he got it out early and it didn't cost him any points against Leeds. We've seen youngsters like Trent and Robertson come through, and now they've won the Champions League, they've won the Premier League, and you've got other core youngsters, not core, but fringe players such as, like you mentioned them, Elliott and Neco Williams, Jones and Brewster. And now they're looking up to these kids. They're looking up to the other kids, that being Trent and Robertson, and they're like, you guys have been on top of the world and we're part of the squad, but you guys were on the field playing. Now we want to do it. We want to step up and we want to be the future of Liverpool. And it's the same story with what happened with Hendo. Hendo was an understudy to Gerrard for many years, and Gerrard unfortunately never got to win the Premier League. But he did manage to lift that Champions League, and now Hendo's emulated that, and he's managed to lift the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I think Klopp's done a great job in terms of his tactical ability and what he's employed here. The question was, can they be stopped? There's still a matter of that City machine to contend with. And there's a few other squads that are looking on top form early on in the season. Unfortunately, my boys at United are not one of them, but let's hope that can change. So yeah, it'll be an interesting season to watch now. You guys have hit the ground running. You'll have started well. It was disappointing to see you all just drop in form after COVID last season. But it's a new season now and you've had a flying start. So let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, 2 games in, listeners, but I think the Liverpool boys and Klopp's German machine has shown that they're putting a statement both on the field and off the field. If anyone's going to catch Liverpool this season, it's definitely a Pep Man City. But it looks ominous for the Reds of Anfield. They are looking confident. They're looking like a team that is built on the success of last year. Personally, I'm hoping to see them lift a few more trophies, obviously being a Liverpool man myself, but excited to see the brand of football that Liverpool are playing. And I think if you're a football lover, you also got to sit back and look at that Klopp team and the Klopp system. And the overall Klopp management of that club, being LFC, and you got to admire it. So had to bring that Liverpool dominance into the fore again in the first 2 games, but let's see if it continues as we build on the rest of the season. Yeah, boys, always love talking about
Raj, I wasn't so impressed with the start that Liverpool had, especially the Chelsea game.
Yeah,
I mean, there were things that worked in your favor. First game, but we're leaving all these first games to see how teams get into match fitness and start. But Liverpool never go all guns blazing, looking like an unstoppable team. They look very stoppable. I was just hoping you also asked me that.
They do look stoppable.
I'm not so impressed. But let's give it some time to see how.
I think the results are what matters. It doesn't matter that there may be frailties in the team. I think that the big gap in your team is like what you mentioned earlier about having the 3 centre-backs, but that Gomez and Matip I don't think are sufficient cover for the Champions League contention or even Premier League contention if by any chance you had to get 2 or 3 injuries at the back, which we've seen happen in the past, and it could be very likely this season, unfortunately, with COVID happening. But if something had to go wrong and suddenly Matip and Gomez find themselves holding the back without the standard core 3 that you have now, I think that could change everything. I think suddenly there'll be huge frailties at the back. So I think that's where your weakness is.
Player-wise, for sure. Player-wise, for sure. But for me, I think what you're looking at for the first few games is to see the grinding of results, as you said. And in that case, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Arsenal, even Everton, they've managed to do that at the first 2 games of the season. Tough opponents, but they've managed to grind out results. And I think the season is going to be about grinding out results. And as you build steam into the 10 games into the season, you're going to see a lot better performances. So let's see who can grind out those results over the first 5-6 games. And that will shape the season, I think.
They weren't easy games either, huh?
Yeah.
Leeds and Chelsea. We thought were genuine contenders, but after seeing that performance, they didn't impress me. And Leeds had a point to prove.
Yeah. And speaking of Chelsea, I mean, we saw they obviously dropped a man with the red card to Christensen, but also we saw Kepa give Mane a free goal in the second goal that Liverpool scored, and that brings us to our second segment, boys, talking goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, and that's just a phone call from one of the goalkeepers there. I believe Chelsea have already signed a new goalkeeper to replace Kepa. Mendy has joined them this afternoon after passing his medical at Stamford Bridge, and that brings us to the topic of goalkeepers. Boys, we've seen a lot of attention on the likes of Kepa and David De Gea with your boys at United, and it brought the conversation about what does a goalkeeper have to do to succeed in one of these big clubs, be it Chelsea, be it United, be it Real Madrid, Barcelona, there's so much being demanded of a goalkeeper in the modern era. So, Shay, to start with you, we've seen many great goalkeepers over the years in our era. The likes of Schmeichel, we've seen them dominate the 90s, the likes of Petr Cech and David Seaman in the 2000s. But the modern goalkeeper in this era, there's a lot expected of them. What do you see as being the core for goalkeeper in this modern era to succeed in these big clubs?
Yeah, the game has changed for goalkeepers, big time. I mean, no longer is it just about shot stopping and commanding your area, and the days of Oliver Kahn and Peter Schmeichel are gone, where we see these loud energies who are giving a huge voice from the back, commanding their line, pushing the line up. And yes, all those attributes are still very important for a goalkeeper now, but there's a lot more to it. In terms of distribution, for example, we've seen Edison change the game of how he can just change defense to attack with his pinpoint accurate kick to Aguero. We've seen Manuel Neuer become the sweeper keeper, managing to actually become a fifth defender by coming off his line. Obviously, goalkeepers these days in the modern era play a lot more with their feet. So you'll see in training, the goalkeepers are getting a lot more involved with the players. It could actually be that a goalkeeper could be an outfield player. He needs to be that comfortable on the ball. And for me, a big thing about goalkeepers is their longevity. You need to be consistent throughout an entire season and more. You need to have a goalkeeper who makes minimal errors. I'm talking about the Buffons of this world who, even at his age, can still probably, I know he probably won't get a start as much these days, but we've seen it over the years with Casillas and Valdez. And now we have a new era of goalkeepers. And I really don't think that Kepa and De Gea right now are on the same level as Becker and Edison, for example, and even Courtois and Jan Oblak. Those levels of goalkeepers. Manuel Neuer, I think, is the best goalkeeper in the world right now after his performance at Bayern Munich. But there's a few contenders out there, and I think they need to stay sharp. That's the main thing about a goalkeeper. You have to constantly be sharp. Your eye has to be in. You have to be commanding of your area. You have to have so many different attributes. Your catching needs to be great. Your goal kicks need to be great. Your distribution, your passing, playing with the feet. There's a lot of it. And obviously their judgment coming off the line as well. Commanding the line, pushing the offside line up, getting the defense out.
And I guess you touched on it a bit, and good, I want to get your thoughts on this one, because someone like David De Gea has been brilliant in the Man United shirt for many years. And sometimes when you get the few errors that he's had over the last 2 seasons, the attention's on you a lot more than it was in the past. So speaking directly to a keeper like David De Gea, he's obviously still got the talent, he's obviously still got the class, but what is it about him that does not ooze confidence anymore like he did 2-3 years ago? What is he lacking in his current game?
I think it's the pressure. There's so much of pressure on goalkeepers these days because you have the squad depth that you can afford to have now. The media covering so why De Gea felt the pressure is because everybody knew Henderson is coming back. Now we've got 3 keepers. What we're going to do is
Romero still on the bench.
Yeah. So look at it. I mean, Romero didn't even start tonight in the League Cup.
The League Cup game is on at the moment.
It's a lot of competition, and it's the same with Kepa, knowing that they were going to come through with that Mendy deal, and that's what you need from a keeper, is to handle that type of pressure. I mean, at the end of the day, you want your best keeper playing for the team. These basics, if you can't get these basics right, then you need to make way for the next best player or the best player.
And that's something that's clearly available in the market now. If you look across the European scene, and Cass, if we look at some of the great goalkeepers at the moment, Shay mentioned many of them, but someone like Neuer is established for many years. Yet he does make the error or two, but he doesn't get the same type of coverage as a Kepa. And if you look at someone like Kepa himself, his big money signing came into Chelsea, most expensive goalkeeper of all time. He's obviously someone who's got the talent as De Gea has, but again is maybe not part of the system that Chelsea needs. What type of goalkeeper would a typical big six type of club, and we're talking Premier League, look at? What type of attributes? Is it that old school type of attributes where you just keep your clean sheets, or is it the modern era that Shay spoke about, where you need to be able to be good at distribution, you need to be able to play a different style of game to fit the outfield players as well? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is it's sort of like levels. At the bottom level, at the foundation, you've got to have the basics. You've got to be a good shot stopper. You've got to be able to catch corners. Like Pickford can't do that, so there's they talk shit about him for that. So you got to have those basics at the bottom, and I think all Premier League clubs, the goalies need to have that. And then as we move higher up the league, then you've got to then bring in the world class save that you wouldn't expect any keeper to make. That you'd expect the top 8 maybe to be making those. And then on top of that, you'd expect to get the one who can distribute properly and play with his feet. And that's where you get like the elite top 6. And I think that's how it should be looked at. But you can't have like just the top. You can't have a keeper who's comfortable with the ball at his feet, but can't make the saves from outside the box. So you need the foundation to be successful, I guess. That's the way I see it.
And that makes perfect sense. And good, I want to get back to something you mentioned, that having that competition for goalkeepers can sometimes be, as you mentioned, a pressure on a big goalkeeper like De Gea. But I mean, you can't underestimate the challenge it can give someone to have day in, day out training with goalkeepers of such high standards. So you can imagine being a goalkeeping coach in Old Trafford right now, when you've got the likes of Romero, you've got the likes of Henderson and De Gea as well. Is that competition for places in a goalkeeping position something that we can look at as being the future of football? Like we spoke about the Liverpool squad depth, do you need depth in quality goalkeepers as well?
Yeah, of course, as this ever-changing game is bringing about aspects and things we never even thought of to think about. Formations are changing. The standard 4-4-2 is not even a thing anymore. And what you want from a goalkeeper and which part of the field you want that goalkeeper to cover is changing. So you're bringing out a different caliber in a goalkeeper. And you know what, man, these goalkeepers deserve it. They need some limelight too. They play an integral part in the team. And even though when we look back in history, we can always think of those shots and those goals that this striker or that midfielder has scored, and talk about it for years. But we don't ever mention, hey, remember that save that this? What's
that's so true.
You forget about these type of things.
And there's been some great saves over the years, man.
Yeah, right.
But no one talks about it as much.
And it's almost become like it's the basics. It's the basics.
Yeah.
This is just something you expect from the goalkeeper.
It's a thankless job, basically. Yeah.
It is. And it's become even worse, Cass. I mean, speaking of thankless, a goalkeeper's time to be a hero used to be at penalties, and we've seen the change in the laws now, where a goalkeeper has to have a foot on the line in the penalty shootout, whether it's during a shootout or infield penalties. Is the game focusing too much on disadvantaging the defending side of the game, both from an offside perspective and the goalkeeping perspective? What's your thoughts on that goalkeeping line change, rule change?
Look, I think it's definitely favoring the attackers, because look, that's what appeals to the public. You know, goals. It's like in cricket.
Yeah.
You know, people love watching 2020 because there's so much of sixes.
Yep.
So
exactly.
And everything favors the batsman. So it's the same thing here now. So everything's got to favor the attackers. We've got to see more goals. You know, us defenders we don't really get all the credit.
Yeah. For sure, we do the hard work, but we don't get the rewards.
Exactly.
No, as Cass said, and listeners, I'm sure you agree. Being a goalkeeper, it's a thankless job, but in the modern era, it's clearly the the model of a goalkeeper in the modern era has changed from what we've seen in the 90s. And Shay, to close out this segment, if you had to pinpoint the top 3 goalkeepers out there right now for the characteristics that they have, who would that be?
It's a very hard one to pick the top 3. I can mention a few that are doing well right now. I don't think Kepa and De Gea fall in that category. Obviously,
sure.
Manuel Neuer, I'll put him at number 1. But then there's Becker at Liverpool. He's doing well.
Champions League winning goalkeeper, Manuel Neuer, Alisson, English Premier League winner.
Yeah, there's the Liverpool goalkeeper who's been consistent. I'm quite impressed by him. And there's obviously Edison for his distribution.
Yeah.
I'm quite impressed with him. And he's a shot stopper. He has all the attributes. But then you have to throw in Jan Oblak and Thibaut Courtois in this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And another guy who I'm surprisingly impressed by, who I don't rate, but is having a good spell, is Szczesny. Scarily enough, Szczesny is doing really well.
Wojciech Szczesny, Arsenal's famous goalkeeper. Yeah, he's always put himself out there. But I mean, those 3 names that you mentioned, Neuer, Alisson, Edison, 3 goalkeepers who's not your typical goalkeepers. But I tend to agree with that. I would have them in a slightly different order. But let's hear Gur, your top 3 goalkeepers in the modern era.
Neuer definitely will go on top there, and then next to him is Thibaut Courtois. I think that the presence felt by Courtois covers the whole net. You feel confident to have him behind you. I'm going to go with a keeper that I've been watching over recent games, been outstanding, is Patricio from Wolves.
Not one of the big team players, but he's definitely
the skill level, just on the skill level, and he's been taking.
Let's not forget he is the number 1 for Portugal, so he's got talent.
And I mean, he's a great goalkeeper, and it's evident in how well Wolves play and results that they usually pull up. So, and it's just someone I've been watching play, so that's why I'm gonna go with that one out there.
No, good picks. I mean, Neuer, Courtois, Patricio, maybe outsider, but definitely one that needs to be spoken about a lot more. Kes, on your side, when you look at goalkeepers of the modern era currently playing in Europe, who's 3 stand out for you?
I'll just have to agree with Shay on the 3 he picked in probably the same order.
Yeah.
Neuer I think his confidence and class just puts him above the rest, and we've seen it again with this Champions League run. I'm sure he's been doing it for years, even though we don't really follow the Bundesliga that much. So yeah, definitely him, and then Alisson and Edison in then 2 and 3 for what they've done. And the nice thing to notice about that is that they've all won trophies from the picks that we've made, and that's a testament to what you really need to win titles. It starts at the back.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with those 3 names as well. The order is not so much of relevance for me, but I think for the listeners out there, we're speaking about what's required of a modern day goalkeeper, and we spoke a lot about the attributes they need to have now. But one thing that doesn't change, and Gur mentioned this, is they need to win you games. And those 3 keepers, the likes of Neuer, Edison, and Alisson, they win you games. Just like in the 90s, the likes of Schmeichel, Barthez, Oliver Kahn won you games. That'll never change.
Just add on that.
Yeah.
You're so right about that, about them winning you games, because for anyone that plays football, to have somebody stable in the nets is the biggest confidence a team can have. Especially when you see the opposing striker taking a worldie, a cracker, and it's heading for the top corner.
Yep.
And your keeper comes out of nowhere and gets a fingertip to it and keeps you in the game. As an attacking player or even a defender, it just gives you that mindset that we got this. Yeah. We got this all the way to the back. We still have somebody on the line who is just keeping that ball out. We can score, we can win, we got this. So just that mental ability that keepers gives the team. And another thing I really like about goalkeepers is when they're loud and aggressive. I like the Oliver Kahns and the Schmeichels who are screaming their lungs out, screaming at the defenders who are angry. That gives energy to the team that really drives you forward from the back.
Yeah, that style
like
that style of how you do it, whether it's aggression, whether it's volume, as long as you're giving confidence, as long as you commanding a presence there, that makes a good goalkeeper. And I don't think that'll change in any era. But the three we mentioned, they definitely make their clubs better for having them there. And that's why we're seeing these huge fees for goalkeepers. And I'm very sure we're going to see a goalkeeper past the 100 million euro mark quite soon, but we'll wait and see. Yeah, boys, we always love talking about the tactical side of the game, and speaking about the goalies was exactly that. But moving on to the last segment for today, as we always do on the net, we love to take a trip down memory lane. And to close out today's show, we're taking a trip down memory lane to look at some of the deadly duos across Europe and specifically in the Premier League. And we thought about this segment on the back of a fantastic performance by Jose Mourinho's Spurs, but specifically Harry Kane and Kane-Son. Did I say his name right, boys?
Hangman.
Hangman Son.
Man.
Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Son. But Kane and Son really stole the show for Spurs this weekend. Harry Kane got himself 4 assists for all 4 of Son's goals. And then Kane got himself a goal as well. But that combination play between the two for those 4 goals were brilliant. And it just sparked a thought on the net to say, where have we seen these deadly duos before? And we've seen some great names over the years, boys. Gur, I'm sure you thinking about this deadly duos in your time watching football. There's quite a few that you can remember. Were some of those that?
Sorry. Can you
I'm asking what are the two that stands out for you as a duo, as a partnership up front that stole the show similarly to Kane and Son did this weekend?
Yeah, so not so much up front, but definitely in the depth of the midfield was the Giggs and Scholes partnership.
Yeah, on the left side of the United midfield.
Yeah. So, man, those two are like, what's those in Indian? No, not the Indian yang, like what? Peanut butter and jam. Those two things that go
telepathic
together.
as well. When you say Scholes and Giggs, I always think about that big diagonal that
how
Scholes
they
used
just
to hit.
know. Yes, exactly.
Ferguson put in his autobiography that he's coached many players, but if there's 4 that really stand out as the best in the world for him that he's coached, it's Eric Cantona, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and Cristiano Ronaldo. Those are the 4 that he picked to be his favorites.
Sure.
That's the duo that Gur picked out. Gur?
Wait, I wasn't finished. I finished. That is my Premier League one.
Okay, cool.
Can I go for one more?
Yes, of course.
Also a little bit of the depth in the midfield, but quite attacking is the Xavi Iniesta.
Xavi Iniesta. Oh,
Pep's Barcelona.
The Spanish.
That's the
maestros.
number one for me. I've never seen the two people working.
Yeah. They maybe didn't set each other up as much as Kane and Son did over this weekend, but that combination in the Barca midfield was what made them tick in the late 2000s under Pepe.
Yeah. And if one was missing, you could see Barcelona was still outstanding, but you could see that they were missing that chain.
It's very nice when you got a trio like Messi, Neymar, and Suarez in front of you.
Yeah.
Pretty comfortable.
MSN, no one can forget that. But Cass, on your side, when you're thinking about partnerships, deadly duos across Europe,
when you mentioned it, got me thinking. The first one, not really in Europe, but it was actually like one of the first games I can actually remember watching was the Confederations Cup match with Brazil and Australia. And Ronaldo and Romario.
Oh, that's the one. That's the one.
That's a cracker.
In a 6-0 win, and I was like probably like 9 years old or something watching that. Wow.
Yeah.
It really like made me fall in love with the game. So
it
was them, Ronaldo, Rivaldo as well.
Yep. Yeah, Rivaldo stepped in there straight after Romario. Well, same time more or less.
And then York and Cole was another very famous.
Of course.
To get the
Those were telepathic. They just knew where each other were.
Yeah.
treble-weight
But
team.
my last one, my favorite has to be from my club, obviously. So
Yeah.
it would be Gerrard and Torres at their peak.
Stevie
It was
G
just
and
something to watch. It was just
and
something
Mino.
else to watch. Like
Yeah.
Gerrard and Torres. Yeah. The fact that they could play off each other as well. You know, they literally
yeah.
they were a good partnership.
Yeah.
If there's Liverpool supporters listening out there, guys, you'll all remember the blind passes that Stevie G would put through for El Nino down the wings. That type of telepathic relationship that they had didn't bring many titles, but definitely one of the deadly duos across Europe. But some top ones there, Cass. I mean, the Brazilian one, I think all of us were quite young, but sticks with us. Shay, on your side?
Yeah.
I'm sure you had quite a few that you can remember.
I got plenty that comes to mind. I'll start with coverage in the Premier League, I guess. I'll start with my boys. Obviously, I'll touch on Cole and York. They were very telepathic. They just knew where each other was. And throw in Sheringham and Solskjaer in that season. I mean, that's what wins you the treble, I guess.
Yep.
And then behind them, you may have mentioned Giggs and Scholes, but don't forget the combination of Nicky Butt and Roy Keane. That was the driving force behind that team for many years.
Yeah.
You can debate it. As Liverpool supporters, you can debate it. But the number of titles they won together, they were the heart of that team.
The chemistry, maybe not, but I'm sure you have a few more that had good chemistry. From your boys, United.
Chemistry, definitely. I think Van Nistelrooy and Rooney really linked up well.
Yep.
They had a great spell.
Rooney had quite a few good partnerships there.
Yeah, don't forget Ronaldo, throw him in the mix.
Yep.
And then you stick Vidic and Ferdinand as a defensive pair in the back. That was solid as you get. Then Ronaldo moved on from United, obviously. Oh, well, let me stick to the Premier League first. At Arsenal, who can forget Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp? That was magic.
Yeah,
that was special.
Invincibles that made them invincible with all those up front.
And with Janberg and Pires supporting them, I think that really helps. And then also another Arsenal pair, Sanchez and Ozil. They had a great season or a good couple of seasons together.
King Ozil has obviously dropped out, but that was his prime years in the Gunner Red.
Yeah, I didn't throw the attacking players that played in front of them, but they were really the hearts of that midfield at the time. Chelsea saw Gudjonsson and Hasselbank have some great memories together.
Jimmy Floyd.
And then, Jimmy Floyd and Ida Gudjonsson, the Iceman, he was terrific as well. Then more of a defensive pair at Chelsea was Kante and Matic. I think they were brilliant together, great combination, holding midfielders. And who can forget Lampard and Drogba? They were just goal-scoring machines.
She's knocking them out the park here.
Yeah.
Hey,
but I'm shocked, Jay.
Right?
You named so many pairs, but you forgot this pair that played in so many teams.
I'm still on the Premier League, huh?
Okay,
carry on.
Wait.
It's Zlatan and Zlatan.
Of course.
That's Zlatan. He doesn't need anybody else. For sure. But Zlatan is himself. He actually had some good combination play in his days at Inter and AC. Who can forget Kaká and Zlatan at AC Milan? I don't know if you guys recall. They had a great partnership out there.
Zlatan and Del Piero at Juventus.
At Juve, yeah. But purely from an assist tally perspective, I think the likes of, you mentioned some of them, Messi and Xavi as an example. The amount of assists that Xavi developed for Messi over the years. And then, Shay, you mentioned Ronaldo and Rooney. Those two combined so well to either assist and score and assist. Those type of combinations. Anyone that sticks out for three of you on a year, one combination that really sticks out best for you from all of these years of watching deadly duos?
Honestly, you may not consider it yourself, but me being a Real Madrid fan, I really liked the combination between Ronaldo and Benzema. Benzema was the ultimate support player.
And Benzema has been around for a while, but he combined well with Ronaldo.
He knew Ronaldo was there. And they won 4 Champions Leagues and a couple of La Liga.
Yeah.
He sacrificed. And sense of the scene. He had a great partnership with Ronaldinho for a couple of seasons. So that really stuck out as well.
Yeah, we lost Shea there a bit, but I think he's going out there for the Benzema and Ronaldo combination that brought so many titles to Real under Zidane. Cass, on your side, deadly duo that's the one that you give the most?
Has to be Phil Jones and Chris Smalling. I think
that's
I think I may have jumped the gun in the previous one when I was on, and for me, Gerrard and Torres is the one that sticks out as my favorite. So there was
Torres and Sturridge also had a good run, eh?
Yeah, but they weren't really setting each other up. They were like Coutinho and Sterling were the ones supplying them. They were just scoring the goal, plenty of goals. They weren't really a partnership. They had the staff to match it. But
yours team.
Yeah, that one is obviously one that close to all LFC supporters. On your side, Gur, one that you had to pick from the ones we've spoken about, or maybe someone that we've missed.
No, I'll stick with the Xavi and Iniesta. Definitely the best two that I've watched play together.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate about that Barca team in the late 2000s. They were brilliant. One that I want to put out there, and that's we didn't mention, is some of the great German combinations. And we spoke about Ozil, but one that sticks out in my memory, similar to the one that you mentioned, Cass, is the combination of Ballack and Klose. They've got many big goals for Germany in big stages. The Euros, World Cups. So these deadly combos come across Europe, across the world. So if you've listeners out there, if you've got any deadly combos that we maybe missed on the show, hit us up. We'd love to talk about these partnerships that have gone on over the years and ones to come as well. So maybe we'll look at that in one of the future shows. But yeah, boys, it's always some fun to close out the show, looking back down memory lane as we do on the streets of South Africa. Hope you enjoyed it, Cass. Thanks a lot for joining us again on the net.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thanks so much.
Short, man. We always love having you. Can't wait to have you over again. Shay and Gur, always good having you, boys.
Short Raj, short Cass. Happy to be here.
Yes.
Yeah. Another top episode, listeners. I hope you enjoyed the conversations. This is what the CrabNet podcast is all about. We have football conversations with boys who really know the game, who love the game, just like you do. If you're listening to the show, you obviously have a passion for the football scene in Europe, just as we do. So, as we always say, if you want to join us on the show, hit me up, drop us a message, a comment, an email. You'll find us on social media, Facebook. Smash that like button on YouTube. We're doing well in terms of gaining subscribers. So hit that subscribe button to follow our content, and you'll definitely be up with us on the streets of South Africa, having good conversations around the football scene. But thanks again for joining us for another episode of the CrabNet. Until next time, we love having you in our studio and on our streets. Till the next one, boys. Over and out. Don't forget what you were